A few days ago, I watched a movie where Jabba the Hutt's son, Rotter the Hutt, and two other Hutts from that TV show 5 years ago no one watched, had a fist fight and then started rolling around on top of each other. This film just so happened to be the first Star Wars movie released in cinemas in nearly 7 years. Whilst these slugs were rolling around on top of each other, two things went through my head. Firstly, what the actual fuck am I looking at? But secondly, how the hell did we get here? What happened to Star Wars? To answer that question, let's rewind nearly 11 years ago to the premiere of The Force Awakens.
It is the biggest movie event of the year. Who knows, maybe ever.
Really loved it.
It was amazing.
It was mostly action, and I couldn't turn away from it.
It lived up to the hype. It's very hard nowadays, especially with the internet spoiling everything. It lived up to the hype for me personally. I don't think there's going to be too many people who are upset by this one.
Fans had been waiting over 10 years for another installment in what was, at the time, the biggest movie franchise in Hollywood history. Things happened in the years that followed. Luke Skywalker guzzled green milk, somehow Palpatine returned, Obi-Wan Kenobi manoeuvred through the hangar of an Imperial base with 4 legs, Baby Yoda had the immense honour of being knighted by Lizzo, oh what I'd give, and we got this absolute bop sung by a group of lesbian space witches.
The power of one, the power of two, the power of many.
Just wow. And now we find ourselves here, right after the release of the first Star Wars movie in 7 years, The Mandalorian and Grogu, and literally nobody gives a shit. It made about £2.50 at the box office opening weekend, and the reviews haven't exactly been stellar. People like to attribute many different reasons as to why Star Wars is currently in the mess that it's in. For example, it's been suggested that the amount of Disney Plus content is the reason for its decline. But like, what if the shows were good though? Would people be complaining about the fact that they were releasing too many good projects? I actually think that the bigger underlying factor is this. Star Wars has essentially been about itself ever since Disney bought the franchise. The Force Awakens came out, and it didn't take long for everyone to realise that it was basically a carbon copy of A New Hope. The main character finds a droid in the middle of a desert that holds very valuable information. There's a big planet blower-upper. There's a masked evil man. The masked evil man kills a kind old man. The planet blower-upper gets destroyed. Everyone already knows The Force Awakens was a rehash. The director basically admitted it himself.
Is there a big, giant, planet-sized weapon in Force Awakens? Yes. And does it blow up? It does blow up. And so there are undeniable, parallels. I very purposely wanted to sort of revisit the old in order to start and tell the new.
The Last Jedi came along, admittedly with less member berries than the previous installment, although that movie managed to be a steaming pile of dog shit in its own special way. Then they panicked and made The Rise of Skywalker, which was essentially member berry soup. Remember Emperor Palpatine? Remember the Death Star? Remember the Throne Room? Why come up with new creative planets when we can just have Tatooine 3? The Mandalorian then followed and tried to offer something new, sort of. Sure, we'd seen Mandalorians before, but this was a relatively small-scale story in comparison, with a guy going on side quests with his baby. That didn't last very long in the end, because remember Boba Fett? Remember Bo-Katan? Remember Ahsoka? Remember Luke Skywalker? Mando and Grogu just so happened to meet basically every important alive Star Wars character in the space of a week. The Book of Boba Fett was next. That basically just turned into Star Wars the show by the end. The main character barely even showed up for 2 episodes. Instead, we watched Mando with deepfake AI nightmare Luke Skywalker and Ahsoka. Then Cad Bane showed up, because why not? He's a character in Star Wars. The Obi-Wan Kenobi show had Qui-Gon show up for like 10 seconds to say hi and bye, despite the fact there were numerous better opportunities for him to show up and actually serve the plot and the characters. That's the worst part about it all. The constant shoving of established characters in our faces would be far less egregious if they actually did something with them beyond simply reminding you they exist. Glad to see Han, Luke and Leia back? Bloody tough, they're all dead and they didn't even get to share a scene together. Ahsoka and Luke interacting with each other? They would have so much to talk about, but the conversation ended up being nothing. Vader and Kenobi interacting for the first time since the events of Revenge of the Sith? And their first dialogue with each other is the most obvious shit ever.
What have you become?
I am what you made me.
They're replacing telling an actual story or developing characters in any meaningful way with soulless key jangling. There is, however, one exception to this. One project that managed to fit through the cracks, avoiding the grubby fingers of the higher-ups at Lucasfilm. We all know which show I'm talking about. Andor is the only thing that they've put out under Disney Star Wars that manages to successfully tell a new great story. A new great story with interesting characters, incredible writing, that doesn't feel the need to resort to familiar franchise shit. And before people say, well, Andor had Star Warsy things in it, there were stormtroopers, they showed the Death Star. Yeah, they did have stormtroopers, and for the first time in 40 years they actually felt like a threat. Unlike The Mandalorian, which basically made it canon that they can't actually aim. And yeah, the Death Star appeared, but that was paying off what we saw on Narkina 5. We learned that Andor helped make parts for the weapon that would eventually kill him in Rogue One. See the difference between something like that and oh my god, it's Maul fighting Darth Vader. Let's bash those toys together like the mature grown adults we are. The creators of Andor made a conscious decision not to have the likes of Vader or the Emperor show up. They actually showed restraint. Unlike a certain cowboy hat-wearing tool who can't seem to get enough of shoving the likes of Ahsoka and Anakin into every shitty project he sharts out. Imagine this guy became like the CEO of the company or something, I'd actually end it up. Oh no. You know what's even better? Guess which project Dave Filoni didn't like. I'll give you a clue, it rhymes with Flynn Bore. So that means expect less of this.
When truth leaves us, when we let it slip away, when it is ripped from our hands, we become vulnerable to the appetite of whatever monster screams the loudest.
And more of this.
Anakin, you look the same.
You look old.
Well, that happens.
Less of this.
I burn my decency for someone else's future. I burn my life to make a sunrise that I know I'll never see.
And more of this.
Have you come to destroy me, Obi-Wan?
But you literally walked over to him, you stupid dick. You know, everyone gives the prequels shit for their terrible dialogue, but if we're being honest, it's not really been much better in the recent stuff.
Liar!
There is very little hope to be had for the future of this franchise. The Mandalorian and Grogu's lackluster box office performance is evidence that the last 10 years of slop has taken its toll. It's one thing to offer audiences the same thing over and over again, but if that same thing also happens to be literal bottom of the barrel shit, then it's no wonder people have gotten tired. We've got Ahsoka Season 2 on the horizon. That's going to be just fantastic. Starfighter comes out next year with Ryan Gosling, directed by the guy who fucked up Deadpool and Wolverine. We've not heard much about that upcoming Rey movie. I have a slight feeling they may have realised their great error in announcing that. It's all just a bit bleak. People got excited about Dave Filoni taking over from Kathleen Kennedy after she stepped down, but really all they've done is replaced a cat shit with a dog shit. For all the many failures Kathleen Kennedy made during her time as leader, at least she can say, well, we made Andor. It may not have performed particularly well viewership-wise, but it was a critical success and went on to win numerous awards. I'm not even sure Dave Filoni would have greenlit Andor if he was running the company at the time. I don't know, I'd be pretty pissed if all my projects were being clowned on and then some dick comes along and gets lauded with praise. When a Disney insider says he's not the Andor guy, he's the Ahsoka guy, that's just rough. And he's the guy we've got leading the charge. I think we may be fucked.